me introduce you to a man named Paco. We have learned a little bit, and I do stress little bit, about Paco from the stellar journalists at the Olympian newspaper in Washington State. They published this headline along with a sketch of Paco. Lacy business owner abducted by ICE, according to online fundraiser by a journalist there named Rolf Boone. And it's got this sketch of, I guess, who I'm assuming is this Lacy business owner named Paco. And he's just a nice looking man with a cowboy hat on a cute little horse, okay? So I feel compelled to read to you the entirety of this article from the Olympian and tip of the cap to a viewer who sent us this asking essentially, WTF is this article? So I'm going to read the full thing to you because I think it's important for the story. It says, the owner of a mechanic shop in Lacy and a small organic farm was taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, according to a fundraiser posted on online site GoFundMe. The fundraising campaign, which was created last month by co-organizers Carissa Miller and Anna Ortega, seeks to raise $10,000 for his legal defense and family. As of Tuesday morning, about $9,800 had been raised, the site shows, and that number has actually increased to about $12,000. It says, and this is a quote from the fundraiser, on June 24th, my close friend and neighbor, Paco, was abducted by ICE. The fundraising narrative reads, he was pulled over while a riding passenger and removed from the vehicle without a warrant or receiving any information about why he was being detained. His wife tried to film the situation, but ICE wouldn't let her or answer any of her questions, according to the campaign. Paco is being held at the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma, the narrative reads. His businesses are for sale, the Olympian reports. It says, we're working hard to sell any assets to bring money in, but it is difficult without Paco here, as the business and its assets are in his name, the campaign reads. If anyone wants to buy a mechanic's shop and business, please let me know. They also go on to describe Paco as a wonderful friend and neighbor. Quote, I have seen him show up for his friends and family in the truest of ways. He came with me to get my first horse, pulled my truck out of a ditch at 11 p.m. when he had to be up at 5 a.m., always made time to stop and say hello, even when things were busy and hectic. No matter the weather, he would always say it's a perfect day. Even now, when we speak on the phone from detention, he said he needed a vacation anyways. I want to show his family and him that they are not alone, even though they have been targeted and persecuted. They are loved and supported by so many more people than the ones that target them, the campaign reads. And the final line, the Olympian has reached out to the organizer for more information. Now, look, I know that a lot of you watching this aren't trained journalists, but as a former journalist myself, I think you can agree there are a few issues with that article, right? Let's name a couple of them. One, it has no information whatsoever on Paco besides his first name. It doesn't have a last name. It doesn't have the name of either of his businesses. It doesn't share the name of his wife. It doesn't share the location where this alleged ICE encounter happens. In fact, it's clear that the reporter did no digging whatsoever for any corroboration of any of the details in the GoFundMe campaign. Every single detail in this article is taken directly from a GoFundMe campaign that purports to be from the neighbor of this dude Paco, last name unknown, who was abducted off the streets and persecuted by ICE agents. This piece of journalism, literally in a newspaper, we're supposed to believe is an actual piece of news, even uses again that headline, a Lacy business owner abducted by ICE, according to online fundraiser, with no information whatsoever about if there was a guy named Paco pulled off the streets by ICE. Why? Was he in the country illegally? Did he have a criminal law violation? It also shares the information in the article that there was no warrant. He was yanked out of the car. His wife wasn't allowed to ask any questions. Did the Olympian reach out to Immigration and Customs Enforcement to try to confirm any single detail of this story? I just read you the full article. Clearly not. In fact, they don't even say in here that they've reached out to ICE. They just say they've reached out to the organizers for more information. So again, all of that, the entire narrative was taken from this GoFundMe campaign. Husband, friend, and local business owner abducted by ICE. Reminds me a lot of the news headline. It's like the news headline was based on the GoFundMe headline. $12,365 raised as of this morning. 201 people have donated to this campaign, and the narrative that they post with it is exactly what was published by the Olympian. No last name for Paco, no further information about his business, which they say is for sale because it's such a dire situation that they now have to sell all of his assets. We don't even know what the mechanic shop is called. We don't know what the small organic farm is called. We know nothing. And the only picture is this sketch of, I guess, who we assume to be Paco and his horse, the same picture used by the Olympian newspaper. Now, let's go ahead and do the job of the Olympian for them and figure out what we can about the situation. It says the organizers of the GoFundMe, Kruse Miller and Anna Ortega. So it was very simple to find some more information on Kruse Miller. In fact, she is appears to be the owner of Withywindle Valley Farms in the Nisqually Valley. So it took Nicole just a couple minutes to find her Instagram account. And indeed, on her Instagram account, she posted a video explaining exactly what she explains in the GoFundMe about what happened to poor Paco.
So yesterday, my close friend and neighbor was abducted by ICE. And I feel like it's important to share what happened because things are changing really quick. And it's just good to be informed on how this kind of stuff is going down. So yesterday morning, I got a text message from my neighbor who live on the same street as me. We live at the end of a gravel road that's next door to the farm that my friend who was abducted farms at. And there was 2 unmarked black vehicles with tinted windows. They were Jeeps. They were new. They matched. And I immediately was worried it was ICE. Later that day, I got a call from his wife. She was very upset. They had pulled him over, which was interesting because his farm, they knew where his farm was because they were staking it out. And they knew where his place of work was. And they pulled him over, my guess, because they didn't have a warrant to enter his home or his workplace. So they pulled him over, didn't ask any questions, pulled the phone out of her hand when she tried to record. They didn't go after her, who speaks no English. My guess is because he is a business owner in town and he pays taxes and has been. He's complained to me, or not necessarily complained, but told me that yes, non-U.S. citizens pay quite a bit more in taxes. And he's been doing that for years. His business is legal and here, and which is upsetting, especially because he's participating in capitalism. He's paying those exorbitantly high taxes, and that is what put him in jeopardy. That's my update. I don't really know what else to say.
How much of that sounds true to you guys? How much of that sounds true to you? Oh, he's told me he pays even more taxes because he's in the country illegally. And he was targeted because he pays taxes and is participating in capitalism, says the woman with the nose ring, which, I'm sorry, is the tried and true indicator of an activist. And sure enough, Nicole did some more digging, and you probably saw up in the description, including in the description and comments of the next video we're going to show you, that she often uses the phrase chinga la migra, which you hear chanted sometimes at these anti-ICE protests, and it means F immigration. And she's used that phrase often on social media, and she is an Olympia area activist. So she's very anti-ICE, very anti-immigration, clearly anti-capitalism. And I'll tell you, watching that video, there's a lot of things where the pieces just aren't adding up. For any journalist, if they had done the due diligence that took just a couple minutes to look into her, I think would have given them pause and reason to really wonder, is she telling the truth? Does she have a motivation here to spin a story about a man named Paco who did nothing wrong, was paying taxes, ran a business, despite the fact we can't find a mechanic shop owned by a man named Paco? A lot of weird stuff. And then she does a follow-up video. Again, there's some Chingalamagra comments in there about F immigration, where she says, well, she just got off the phone with Paco, who was being held at the Northwest Detention Facility.
So I just got off the phone with my friend who's in the Northwest Detention Center, and I figured I would just send some updates on what's happening there. So he said when he arrived there was 50 people, and now there's 2,000 people.
Oh, wow. That's quick.
He told me that he didn't have a plate. He needed a plate, and he didn't have enough socks or underwear. And he said that he had a court date originally scheduled, but they canceled it. He also told me that most of the people there are getting picked up like he did on the street without a warrant. They're not coming into people's homes. They're not coming into their places of work. They're just pulling them over and pulling them out of the car is mostly what he's saying he's hearing from people.
Okay. So she says she's talked to Paco. Paco's being held by ICE. He's been abducted. All of these claims she's making would have been fine if it weren't picked up by a news agency and written into a news story as if they were true, without any verification whatsoever. Let's continue to go here. Remember the picture of, I guess, Paco, the sketch that was drawn and used not only in the GoFundMe fundraiser, but in the Olympian? It was interesting to us. Like, they got no picture of this guy whatsoever. No picture at all. Well, one of our viewers who's more tech savvy than Nicole or I plugged that old picture into a website that allows you to detect the probability that AI was used to create an image. Here's what it told them. 97% likely that this image was AI generated by ChatGPT. Now, I don't know. Maybe they took an image that was actually of Paco and wanted to turn it into a sketch, and they did it using AI. I guess that could have been the case. But that's also something that I think raises some questions. You don't have any real pictures of Paco that you could post on the GoFundMe. I mean, you've been in contact with the wife. You're obviously very close to them. If you want to sell this sad story and get people to donate to the campaign, a few pictures of Paco and his wife and his kids and his business or something like that. No, it's a AI-generated, very likely AI-generated sketch. So we also this morning spoke to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and were basically laughed off the phone. I talked to ICE and ERO Seattle, a spokesperson, and they said, based on what you've given me, I don't have enough information to even look into who this might be. Paco, even if there was a Paco in the Northwest Detention Center, is that even the person's real name? We don't even have a last name. The ICE spokesperson said that they haven't been conducting an awful lot of operations in Thurston County, and that the incident as described by the news article and the GoFundMe and this activist doesn't, off the top of his head, match any sort of enforcement actions that he's familiar with that have happened over the last few weeks. So he's kind of like, what do you want me to do with this? You've got a guy named Paco. You don't even have a picture of him. You've got a sketch that appears to be AI generated. So ICE doesn't even have enough information from reading any of this to be able to look into this and see if it's a legitimate story. Although they said, if you can bring us more information, get in touch. We've reached out with the GoFundMe organizer, this Carissa Miller woman. We reached out yesterday to see if she could provide us with any information at all. Name of the business, last name, anything at all, address, give us something, right? Haven't gotten a response yet. We also reached out to the reporter at the Olympian and the editors, the news editors at the Olympian this morning, and asked them some very basic questions. Hey, what, if any, effort did you make to confirm the details that were posted in the GoFundMe? Why use the word abducted in the headline of your story when you don't know, one, if this even happened, and two, you don't know the circumstances at all if it did happen? Was this person wanted for some serious criminal offense? Did they have a deportation order from the country? I also asked, does this story meet the editorial standards of the Olympian? Because I'll tell you, I've worked in several newsrooms. I've never worked in one where we would just take at face value the narrative in a GoFundMe campaign where the goal is raising money, and that we would push that out as a news story without any independent confirmation whatsoever. And look, there could be a guy. All of this to say, at the end of the day, we don't even know if Paco exists. Paco could exist. Poor Paco, and his horse might be missing him. And he might be in the Northwest Detention Facility awaiting deportation. We don't know. And that's a good indicator that there's not enough information there to have done a news story on it. Now, if we hear back from this woman, if we can bring more information to ICE, a last name, a business, something, an address, anything at all, then we can go back and say, hey, can you confirm this? We can get some information about if this was a legitimate effort. What did ICE do? Why did ICE arrest him? All of this stuff. But we don't have enough information, but it shows you how quickly the media is willing to jump on a narrative when it paints Donald Trump as evil, Donald Trump bad, ICE and immigration is just kidnapping and abducting people off the streets. They don't need to do any verification whatsoever. Having an AI-generated sketch, likely AI-generated sketch, and a first name, and a story from a well-documented anti-ICE activist is perfectly fine for them to go forward with a news story and paint their sob story narrative. Not to mention, again, at the center of all this, this woman is raising money. If we don't even know that a guy named Paco exists, where is that money going to? And if she's not swindling people out of money, then she should respond to us and give us the information that we need to confirm this story so the people who donated to her GoFundMe know that it's actually going to help this Paco person who she says exists. And look, again, you don't even have to be a journalist to understand how royally messed up all of this is. When the Olympian published this story on social media, regular people, not journalists, were in the comments being like, that doesn't sound suspicious at all. Gee, are we sure that this is a real person? So even people who saw the article, who are sane, thought to themselves, there's a lot of missing pieces here. So for the record, could be a true story. Might have actually happened. But the Olympian did nothing to confirm any of it. Not a damn thing. And they pushed it out there as a news story to stoke fear and division and hate toward Donald Trump. And that's it at the end of the day. That's the only reason they did it. Anyone can push out any sort of narrative they want, and it will be picked up by the news media and pushed out there as truth. And they can couch it by saying, oh, this is according to the fundraiser. This is according to this Carissa Miller woman. But that's not journalism. They want people to believe that a guy named Paco was abducted and he was a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen just ripped off the streets who didn't do anything wrong in the world. Does that make sense to you? No, because you guys are sane. You can think for yourselves. You can think critically and independently, and you know what bullshit smells like. And this smells an awful lot like bullshit. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong, Carissa. Is that her name? Carissa Miller. So if this is a real story, give us information so we can confirm it. And we can come back tomorrow and say, indeed, a man named Paco exists. He's a law-abiding business owner who was abducted off the streets. Would be more than happy to do that. Absolutely insane. Frankly, should be criminal, right? If she can't bring us information to confirm this, GoFundMe should take the fundraiser down. Because would that not be theft? It would be theft. And I don't think you can have a GoFundMe fundraiser where the money isn't actually going to what you say it's going to. So if she can't prove it, I give you, Carissa Miller, 48 hours to provide us with enough evidence to show that this is a real person that you're really fundraising on behalf of. And if you can't, then I personally will go to GoFundMe and say that you have not provided that information and this does not appear to be legitimate. So clock's ticking, 48 hours from yesterday when we reached out. How about?